All right, so um, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cyrus, a student at Uganda Christian University, pursuing a Masters of Science in Agribusiness Management and Entrepreneurship. I'm with my colleague Charity Wamana, and on our other paper, we're gonna discuss question 2 of managerial and business economics. Thank you. The first concept uh, under this uh, discussion is total physical product, and straight away I want us to talk about it and the components under this concept. One, we are saying it's the quantity output that is produced from a farmer's fixed inputs and a specified level of variable inputs. Mark the word physical, mark the word fixed inputs and variable inputs. And so we are saying the production function illustrates the relationship between the quantity of variable inputs and the level of output. In a nutshell, the concept of total physical product looks at the input vis-a-vis the output. That's what the parameter is used to determine the levels of and units of input vis-a-vis the output. This concept is important in business firms, in factories, in manufacturing industry, and mention them but a few. So it's a very important concept in business, and I wonder why we are talking about it. There are other parameters that are important, but for today we want to look at two. Another issue here is average product, and we are saying it is the output per unit of factor input. Output per unit of factor input. Yes. So we are saying the output that is, is received per factor input. In other words, factor in, factor out, factor in, factor out. What you put in, and we look at what you're receiving. Or what you received, we look at how much did you put in. This can only be also quantified in terms of labor, can be also quantified in terms of the investment, capital investment, and what have you. Another important factor under this slide, we're talking about the issue of marginal product, and we are saying it is an additional output produced as a result of an additional unit of a variable input. Each concept we are adding in a unique, we are adding in a unique terminology to separate the two. Remember, in average product, we added in unit of a factor. Now in marginal, we're adding in additional unit. All right, we're adding in a concept of additional unit. So in other words, if I've been having 100 laborers or labor at my farm or manufacturing industry, and this team has been able to produce 100 bags, if I increase the team by 5 or 10, marginal product comes in to assess the quantities of output vis-a-vis the additional factors of input. This, remember, we said we can look at labor because the fixed part of it is always fixed. All right, follow me to table number 2 to explain this a little bit more. We have come up with a table here which is also showing tabulation of the relationship of these three parameters that we have talked about. Looking at my first row, I have land, which is placed at fixed input. Of course, I have a variable input there, which we have maybe wanted to look at labor, which is increasing at different intervals. I have TPP, which is our total product, physical product, that is also increasing, of course. And then APP, which is our average physical product. And then lastly, our marginal physical product. All right, let's look at this graph to see how the relationship is. This graph, shows the relationship between total physical product, marginal physical product, and average physical product. And when you look at it, the different increases or gradual increases in total physical product compared to marginal, and of course also marginal playing a little bit fairer, higher than the average product. And if you look at our slide, the next slide brings the relationship clear, and we are saying determination of total product. 3 in 1, right there is what we want to look at. So we are saying to determine the best levels of input variables and the total physical product, let us look at this diagram. All right, again, while we want to look at this diagram, there are three important things here still to remind ourselves. We are looking at average product, we are looking at marginal product, we are looking at total product. All right, that's one issue to remember. Secondly, we have categorized this graph in phases A, B, C, R, D, 0 from 0 to A, from A to B. All right, then just lower, we are also looking at from 0 to C, and from C to R, and from R to D. This is how we are going to categorize our relationship as we explain down the slides. Okay, so the first table there, we are looking at the relationship between units of input factors vis-a-vis total product. All right, so when you look at our curve of TPP, it is from 0 to A. There is a sharp increase in the values, I take you a little bit to our table. From 0, okay, from 0, this is TPP, from 0 to A, you can see it is shooting from 0 to 10. Representatively here, we are saying from 0 to A, there is a sharp gradual increase in total physical product for any farm. Okay, all right, let's get to the writing here, maybe to for the interest of time. We are saying total physical product increases from point 0 to B. There are two phases of increment. In TPP, in phase 1, from 0 to point A, all right, increase at an increasing rate, while in the lower part of the diagram, marginal physical product increases up to point C. So we conclude that when marginal physical product is increasing, total physical product at an increases at an increasing rate. That's the relationship we are describing here in the first point. Then in the second phase, two of increase in the phase 2, I beg your pardon, in phase 2 of increase in total physical product from point A to B, the increase is at a diminishing rate. Let's look at it and see. The increase of TPP from phase A to B, the increase is at a diminishing rate. All right, that's very important to note, diminishing rate. And in the lower diagram, marginal physical product decreases from point C to D, but remains positive. Let's a little bit get back and see what we are talking about. We are saying there is a gradual increase, but with diminishing from point A to B. All right, you can see this relationship here. You can see this relationship here. There is an increase, yes, from A to B, but with diminishing rate. But just lower, marginal product decreases positively from C to D. Exactly, that's what we are talking about. All right, so let's look at another relationship here. And we are saying from C to D, but it remains positive. So we can conclude on that point that when marginal physical product falls, but still positive, total physical product increases at diminishing rate. So at this point, B, total physical product at maximum. In the lower diagram also, we look at a relationship of marginal physical product is at 0 at the point of D. What are we talking about? This is point D, and this is marginal product. Marginal product is at 0 at point D. But while marginal product is at 0 at point D, average physical product is also decreasing gradually. Let's look at it, the wording here, at 0. But we are saying marginal physical product is at 0, TPP is at maximum in phase 3. After point B, TTP fails. And after point D, marginal physical product becomes negative. All right? Becomes negative. Yes. And then in the lower portion of the above figure also, average physical product and marginal physical product curves have been drawn before point on our APP curve. All right. So MPP, which is marginal physical product, is greater than average physical product at that point. So there is an increase in APP when we also study our graph carefully. when we study our graph carefully. So at this point R, where is our point R? Point R is here. Our point R is here. Okay, so we are saying at that point R, it gives us the best unit of the input of the variable for the total physical product, because any other additional unit of input will have a less effect on total product than the previous one, exactly than the previous one. So we are saying input costs are other things we want to look at. I believe that the concept of physical product, average product, and marginal product is well explained, because these parameters are directly affecting each other, and you can see the relationship is a little bit fragile. When this one is increasing, another one is decreasing, and while you expect a decrease in one, another one is constantly increasing. All right, so we want to look at the next slide, and it's on our other paper, is what is input cost. We want to look at this, and we are saying input costs are the set of costs incurred to create a product or service. In most cases, people only think input costs go for a product only that is tangible. No, but they also go to a service. Okay, it's a cost is an expenditure incurred by a firm to produce goods and services for sale in a market. So a producer has to incur various costs in order to produce a good or a service. As simple as that. These are costs put together to create a product or a service. There are various types of input costs. We will look at a few of them because of interest of time. And one of them is direct cost. And we are saying cost made by cash payment for employing various factors of production can be categorized under direct cost. Okay, this could include labor, material, overhead cost, as among others. There is another cost here we have called direct or implicit cost. These are costs which a firm sacrifices in order to hire an alternative factor, all right, of production. They are opportunity costs of factors of production. Those are implicit costs. So maybe to just a little bit, we have also what we call fixed costs. And fixed costs do not change in the short run or period of time. These costs that remain the same regardless of the levels of production. All right, I have another one here, variable costs. We have already talked about them during our concept of total physical product. And we are saying these cause changes in short time or long run while levels of production. You know, that they move with the levels of production. They change with the level of production. If you are aiming at increasing your production, definitely the costs that are going to be increased. All right, maybe you will need an increase in labor. Maybe you will need an increase in capital investment for one reason or the other. Maybe you will need another factor of production to increase. So these are variable costs. We have already talked about them. Then we also total cost. And we are saying expenditures incurred by a producer to produce his goods and services. It is also summation of total fixed cost and total variables. The formula just right there. All right. Okay. We have also average costs. Okay. Expenditures incurred by a producer for producing each unit of product. At this moment, I know everybody is now acquainted with a unit. Okay. A unit brings the mathematical expression a little bit closer and specific into the subject that you're dealing with. All right. Then we have also marginal costs, which are additional expenditures incurred by a producer. These are additional, when we call them marginal costs. We have accounting costs, economic costs, mention them but a few, a number of them. All right. I want to talk about in this slide what is a return, because it is also a part of our discussion today. And we are saying a return is also known as a return on investment. In the simple terms, is money you receive from an investment. For example, for every dollar you put into a business, the investment earns $2. So if you earn $2 on an investment, that is a return. So this money is called an investment and in consideration of your return. So that's what we are talking about. And all you can say, a return is often calculated in percentage. So we can calculate a return in a percent or a ratio of a region of investment so that managers can measure and compare how well their investment are performing, or it remains the driver force as a risk. So as a manager, you can use this concept of a return to gauge the business future plan. It can also be a tool for planning. It can also be a tool for decision making. Okay, it can be a tool for decision making, also to determine if the business is viable or not. And we're also saying it is a common that a venture with a higher risk requires bigger investment. Yes, if you're planning to invest in gold, definitely it's a venture of high risk. You will need to do a heavy investment. If you're planning to invest in computerized systems for banks and financial institutions, those are high risk ventures. You will need to definitely invest heavily into such. One of the maybe for example, one of the institutes in Uganda where government does heavy investment is URA. URA has systems that need to be guarded because the money switches here and there, and Bank of Uganda systems of transfer of money, those are heavy government investment because they're high risk ventures. This is what we are talking about. So when you have a higher risk venture to invest, the bigger investment is required, and the results into greater return is also expected, and or alternatively the vice versa is the same. So this is the concept of return. There are several types of returns. Remember one more time, for example, Uganda Revenue Authority comes clear on the returns that clients or customers will file. When you check their portals, they're clearly stipulated there according to the government policy. But let's look at some of them here, maybe for interest of time. Okay, one of them is annualized return. And we are saying annualized return or compounded annual growth rate measures the growth of investment value in a year by considering the effect of compounding effect. Mark two words, it's annually, then compounding rate interest is also an important issue to consider during annual return concept. Another issue here, we are saying annualized returns are useful for comparing different annual findings with varying tenures. You can use that parameter to compare different years. I have another return here that we are saying absolute return. The absolute return refers to an investment growth achieved in terms of percentage irrespective of the investment tenure. So the absolute return is looking at percentages, and for it is not giving focus the tenure. You see? Yes. So the growth is expressed in absolute terms and not in relative terms or competitive terms. For example, you have invested so amount of money and you find that the growth is 2.5, in 4 years, the absolute return would therefore be 25% of what you have invested. All right, let's look at another parameter here. We are saying total returns. Total returns of a mutual fund refers to a fund overall gain, including the interest. So the total return here now comes in and puts everything together, puts interest, dividend distribution, capital appreciations of a period of time together, and it will give you one picture of a return. All right. Okay, so that is total return for you there. We have point-to-point return, okay, which is a mutual fund between 2 points in time, okay. And then we have trailing returns, which we are saying returns generated over a specific period ending today. It is calculated using a formula. That those guys, recently we had a company that it's bringing their investment in our company, but their returns, they need them per week. They're having short-term return strategy. You see, so when we evaluated our nature of business that requires shipping, that requires issues of clearing with statutory bodies like URA, like Uganda Exporting Board, we said, but we can't get investment for a week. That's fraud. So we are saying trailing returns. These are returns that are generated over a specific period of ending. Specific period. Yeah. Okay. So we have also rolling returns there. Look at them there. We're saying of a period which may be daily or weekly or monthly until the last day of duration. They're always looking at short term, and that's always reminding you about the last day of their investment. Maybe it could be soft loan money lenders. They do you a loan of 1 month, and that's the investment in you. And when it's 29th, they give you a call and say, hey, I need my money. This type of returns are under roaring returns. All right, friends, I want us to look at duality as another concept for our subject matter this evening. And we are saying it refers to a relationship between quantities and prices that rise as a consequence of a hypothesis of optimization. So duality, for it as a term, can be, it's a common term, can be looked at in terms of English, it can be looked at in terms of relationship, but we chose to bring it in terms of business economics. And we are centering our discussion of duality in terms or in relation to economics. That's where we put our focus on. And we are saying it refers to a relationship between quantities and prices that rise as a consequences of a hypothesis of optimization. So we are saying relating it to a customer theory. We can take a case from customer theory. It is an alternative way of looking at a consumer utility maximization decision. We can choose to apply duality in consumer theory while we are looking at utility maximization and decision. It also refers to a relationship between quantity and prices, as we have said above. And so, while looking at duality, it can also be a logical relationship between utility and expenditure. We can also gauge the two parameters, utility and expenditure functions. This can be caused by a slight hand or skilled trick with first order condition of optimization. What are we talking about? We are saying it is a relationship. It measures the relationship between two parameters. And here we can look at utility and expenditure function. That's what we are talking about. This duality relationship may also be naturally a product of characters, but while examining the consumer theory, we can examine the behavior in terms of maximization of utility subject to money, income, or budget constraints. The maximization of expenditure cost, which are subjected to utility constraints. So these are the concept of reality, and looking at it further, we're also saying this means that attention will be given to consumer behavior. You can choose to give a consumer behavior attention. How are consumers behaving? Do they like cheaper things? Do they like this type of branding? What's the behavior of the consumer when we want to study about it? So both of these perspectives, and it is known as a conception of duality. Okay, maybe to a little bit, and bring it to your attention is that it's a little bit a complex parameter to deal with, but it's looking at relationships. It's looking at a comparison of this and this, how they affect each other, and how customers end up at zeroing at a decision for whichever product or service. Another concept here is production function, and its inverse. All right, so we are saying the production function is a mathematical presentation showing the relationship between the input and output. Again, here we're bringing the word relationship between input and output. A firm can produce efficiently. It answers that the questions related to managerial productivity levels of production and the cheapest mode of production of goods. So for the function, consider the four major factors of production, namely land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, and helps producers determine the maximum output that a firm can achieve. Look at the word maximum output that the firm can achieve by using the mentioned factors of production. All right. So inversion has factors here to look at, and that has a formula, and we are coming up with the formula Q equals to F in brackets KL, or Q equals to K plus L, for example. Remember, we are now looking at inverse. Inverse is what we are looking at. You follow me to the next slide here, maybe okay. So I think the corresponding cost function expresses in the physical term is the production function with the axis reversed. So the result is the inverse of production function or cost function expressed in physical terms. The total cost function is the production function. So for example, a function inverse, let's look at this example here, maybe because our understanding a little bit clear. So for example, the function inverse, we are saying fx equals 3x minus 8. If that's our function, okay, so always we can consider fy is equal to 3y minus x. Look, remember we are looking at an inverse. There is a mathematical working here that's saying, therefore we will have now to do an inverse for this. So when you choose to do an inverse for this, you find out that y equals to 3x minus 8. Alternatively, on this side we shall say x is equal to 3y minus 8. Remember, we are still again looking at the inverse function. Alright, so you will see that x is equal to 3y minus 8, and also the same applies this way, and then we'll come here and say x plus 8 equals to this. And at the same time we'll also say y plus 8 equals to 3x. That's the inverse working out that we are looking at. You see, if you follow me to the next slide, definitely I'll have a beta explanation. We are saying, let me first define for you here the parameters that we are using. And so we are saying that here, if Q equals to F in brackets KL, it is replaced as Y equals to Fx. For example, if the inverse of production function is Y equals to X square root of half, so it will also be Y equals to X square root of a half. This is what we are talking about, a very interesting subject here. So we'll choose to square both sides, and the result will be Y squared equals to X. Does that make sense? Definitely yes. We can look at another cost function here. The cost function of W plus 2WR squared by a half plus R, where W is the price and WR is price or rate, and Q equals to quantity of output. We will try to do a mathematical expression here, which may look complicated to maybe you, and of course I'll look to go through together to just shed more light on the subject that we are talking about. So to solve for the prime production function, we are saying change in demand equals to L, which will be Q plus Q into brackets R divided by W. Remember, I've divided these parameters already here, and squared by a half into the bracket there. So the condition of the change in demand is equals to K, which will be Q plus Q W over R. Remember, we are doing an inverse. We are doing an inverse here. So if you follow the mathematical working out here, you will find out that we will need to do a reciprocal. We'll take a reciprocal on both sides, and when we do that, you find out that the 2 half is cancelled by the left hand side and the right hand side. And when you follow clearly the working here, the mathematical working here, you will find that Q at the end of it is equal to L K over K plus L. That's the inverse that we were looking at. That's the inverse that we were looking at. All right. So to just take you a little bit up, we said that the corresponding cost function expresses the physical term in production function with an axis reversed, and the result is the inverse of production function, or cost function expressed in the physical term. Thank you for listening, and I believe that you have been enriched and we have learned together this concept. Thank you so very much.